Hello, everyone. TV host Connie Chung is revealing now via letter that she had this horrible experience in her young years with a doctor she had during a medical examination. I want to make a few comments on her testimony because it's very revealing on how the left really works, how its mindset works. Now, this is Connie Chung describing the day she got sexually assaulted by her doctor in the 60s. And this is all framed in the context of the Christine Ford and Brett Kavanaugh media circus. Christine Ford, as most of you may know at this point, is doing a terrible job defending her story. She doesn't remember the place or the date it was. None of the people she mentioned were in that place on that day, including her best friend. She doesn't remember who paid for her polygraph test, and she lied about her fear of flying and some other things. There are clear inconsistencies in her story. She's been caught deceiving again and again. And still, the media and the left is more than willful to keep citing her despite her shitty story. And why is that? That's because the left speech is not led by facts. They know that the emotional speech can be a powerful political tool, and they're stuck into this strategy for decades now. If you know how to make an idol out of somebody, his or her real story just doesn't matter. It's the vibe, it's the feeling that this character brings to the people. It's the character and not the person who is useful to keep our cause alive. And in order to build this character, this idol, they force a chain reaction so the character can be considered a role model or an inspiration for other people. So let's hear now Connie Chung's testimony, and let's comment it on the way. All right.
Christine, I too was sexually assaulted, not 36 years ago, but about 50 years ago. The molester was our trusted family doctor. He was the very doctor who delivered me on August 20th, 1946. I'm 72 now. It was the 60s. I was in college. The sexual revolution was in full swing. The exact date and year are fuzzy, but details of the event are vivid, seared in my memory. Am I sure who did it? Oh yes, 100%. I was a cool college co-ed, but not that cool. I was still a virgin. In the 60s, I did advance to that so-called heavy petting stage, short of intercourse. I assumed that would come next. I went to my family doctor for birth control pills or IUD or a diaphragm. His office was in his home, a classic Georgetown 19th century house, creaky wooden floors with worn velvet furniture. His office was to the left of the front door through double doors. It was a large divided room, divided by a curtain he could draw. He drew the curtain, asking me to remove my clothes below the waist. Here I was in my 20s. I had never, ever had a gynecological examination. I had never even seen exam stirrups before. It was really odd to spread my legs and dig my heels into those cold iron stirrups.
Okay. What she's doing now is building the scenario. She's a journalist, so she knows how to write stuff in order to catch people's attention. All the details are set up for the reader to get into her skin. The big 19th century house, the creaky wooden floor, the furniture. You can almost picture yourself in there, right? And now I turn to the left, I cross this door. She's guiding you. She's figuratively leading you by the hand to the doctor's office. This is a very popular and effective literary technique. It is in almost every novel ever written. You have to get the reader to picture himself in the scenario. Now, she does the same with the feeling she had at that point. And she also makes a very good setup. I was in my early 20s. I never had examination before. It was odd. I was nervous. Because you, the viewer, are a person, right? You can feel the fear when someone describes it. That's called empathy. And we all sane people have it. That's why we flinch with horror movies. That's why we cry with dramas. That's why we get excited with action movies. We feel empathy with the character's feelings. But that doesn't validate the story as true. If you want people to believe this is true, you have to bring other kind of information, like places and names and the time of the day and witnesses, etc. I'm sorry, but we can't take every good realistic story as true without any kind of evidence. And thank God, because that would be a free-for-all for all liars to make false accusation, and the prisons would be bursting with innocent people. But she doesn't remember this part. It was blurry. What day was it? What time was it? I don't remember. But the floor creaked, and it was odd, and I was nervous and scared. Okay.
While I stared at the ceiling, his right index fingers massaged my clitoris. With his right middle finger inserted in my vagina, he moved both fingers rhythmically. He coached me verbally in a soft voice. Just breathe. Mimicking the sound of soft breathing. You're doing fine, he assured me. Suddenly, to my shock, I had an orgasm for the first time in my life. My body jerked several times. Then he leaned over, kissed me, a peck on my lips, and slipped behind the curtain to his office area. I don't remember saying anything. I couldn't even look at him. I quickly got dressed and drove home. At the time, I think I may have told one of my sisters. I certainly didn't tell my parents. Good heavens, no. I was actually embarrassed about my sexual naivete. All I wanted to do was just bury this incident in my mind and protect my family. You have to understand.
Okay. By the way, I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knows about this. This is new for everybody because I remained silent until now. But now I'm telling to the world because this brave, strong woman, Christine Ford, has inspired me. None of the other previous cases before has ever inspired me to tell my personal story, but this particular one did. Not the Bill Cosby ones, not the Harvey Weinstein ones. The one with probably the worst testimony ever made, with a total absence of any trace of evidence, and the most politicized one in the last years, this one inspired me. Because it's not relevant that this judge is nominated by Donald Trump for the Supreme Court. It's not relevant that the media company I work for is actively trying to boycott Trump administration every single day. No. This has nothing to do with all that. This woman has inspired me. She's an inspiration for all women, and we should listen to her and believe every word she says. You see that? This is not about women. This is all politics. They don't give a fuck about you, ladies. It's all special interest. You're not a part of it. You don't belong in there. This party is not for you.
And my mother couldn't read or write English, let alone drive. So from then on, I told her, our family doctor lives too far. We're not going to see him anymore. Years later, I told my husband. When did I tell him? What year? What date? I don't remember. You know, I think the doctor died almost 30 years ago, in his 80s. But because I knew I was writing this piece, I found the house on Google Maps, and seeing it again, it was just like I was standing across the street. I freaked out. I just freaked out.
Okay, oh my God, I just freaked out. You know, just watching the house on Google Maps made me freak out. It wasn't the creaky floor what triggered a reaction. It wasn't the smell of the room. It wasn't the touch of the cold stirrups every time I go to an examination. No. What triggered my mental breakdown is a satellite picture of the roof of this house in Google Maps. Okay, I don't want to be an asshole here. I'm not saying this didn't happen. It probably happened. And it's totally disgraceful. And this guy should have been investigated. Now he's dead. He can't tell us his version, so we'll never know. But she's using so many literary techniques, it's almost ridiculous. It's like you're reading a novel right now. She's just looking for empathy at this point. She's not giving a fuck about making her story reliable. She's looking for a reaction, an emotional reaction. She just wants to trigger you.
Christine, I too am terrified as I reveal this publicly. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Can you? If you can't, I understand. I'm really scared. I'm frightened. I can't even cry.
Okay, this part is entirely and purely emotional. She's trying to build this sisterhood, this community, this union entirely based on the fear they both have right now. She kept this story in secret for 50 years and now she's terrified. Well, this is not a coincidence. She chose these words because that's the same words that Christine Ford used in her testimony. And now that little quote, "I am terrified," is the big highlighted catchphrase that everyone is using as a slogan for this particular cause. The left does it constantly. This is one of the elements of this big deception strategy, striking right into people's emotion. You strike them with a catchy, emotional quote so they can use that quote as a complete substitute for all objective and rational debate based on facts and logic. She said, "I am terrified." You have felt her fear, right? You have empathy. You're not a monster. So let's miss the part in which she's accusing a man of rape without any kind of solid proof. She's terrified. And hey, now Connie is terrified too. That's what matters. We'll definitely see this catchphrase more often in future protests. Okay.
Will my legacy as a television journalist for 30 plus years be relegated to just a footnote? Will she too be etched on my tombstone instead? I don't want to tell the truth. I must tell the truth. As a reporter, the truth has ruled my life, my thinking. I'm writing to you, Christine, because I know that exact day.
Okay. This is a scary part. A journalist for a major mainstream media company whose job is to pursue the truth no matter how uncomfortable or painful is it, and stick to it and tell everybody no matter what the consequences are for her or her career, is calling truth with all capital letters to a bunch of accusations with no evidence to back them up whatsoever. It's like, I don't know this woman, I don't know her story, I wasn't there, there are lots of inconsistencies in her story, but I know she's telling the truth. And why? Because I had a similar experience too. In a different place, in a different time, with a different guy, and under totally different circumstances. But my experience somehow validates hers. And she doesn't have to bother in remembering dates and places and names, because I don't remember either. So that's how I know she's still telling the truth. That's the version we all have to believe. This is actually the logic behind this case and behind all the Me Too movement. I'm not kidding. You just said you've been sexually assaulted. Well, since I've been sexually assaulted too in a completely different scenario, you must be telling the truth. There's no way you're making this up because it happened to me as well. And our union, our sisterhood, and our catchphrase and our protests is all we need to prove that we're right. Who needs evidence to put a guy in prison? I am terrified. This is the mindset. This is actually terrifying, right? Now I'm terrified.
Dates, exact years, are insignificant.
No, they're not. They're not, lady. They're not insignificant, especially when someone's life and reputation are at stake. For God's sake, you're a journalist. At some point in your career, you've had to do research and look for dates, places, and names, and testimonies and graphical proofs, and all kinds of references in order to make a reliable article. And now it's insignificant? What has changed? What's actually your point? What are you proposing? You want all the court system to give credit to good stories instead of reliable ones now? You want to substitute accuracy for good storytelling in a court? Is that what you're asking for? Please explain what's your fucking point, because I don't get it.
We remember exactly what happened to us and who did it to us. We remember the truth forever. Bravo, Christine, for telling the truth.
Bravo for telling the truth. Again, she must be telling the truth. This is the truth. I know she's telling the truth. I can see it in her eyes. And if you don't see it, you must be a chauvinistic pig. Bravo, Christine. You're a national hero. Okay. This is what they do. This is what the left does. They mislead you from the actual reality. They build this alternate reality with slogans and characters and symbols and colors and storytelling, which for the weak-minded is more attractive than the real, measurable, objective, boring, unfair reality. They strike right into your emotions and they sell you this catalog of superheroes, no matter what they really did. It's the character what matters. That's the real tool for our cause. That explains the Lenin or the Che Guevara or the Malcolm X. What they actually did in their real lives is not important. Just take the character we've built for you out of them and make it your own role model, your inspiration. So now they're trying to do so with Christine Ford. It doesn't matter that she can prove anything of what she's claiming. It doesn't matter that Brett Kavanaugh is still innocent until proven guilty. It doesn't matter the political interests behind all this circus. In the character that we're building out of her, she's a brave woman. She's a role model and an inspiration for all women. We're not waiting for the verdict. We've already made her a saint. In the college campuses, in the media, we have our own verdict already. We just know she can't be lying because she's our girl, and our idols are perfect. They can't be wrong. Well, okay, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please tell me what you think in a comment. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you so much.